And of course, if you don't know who MrBeast is, he is a YouTuber, this colossal YouTuber, dozens of millions of dollars of wealth as a consequence of YouTube, and maybe even has some sort of deal with Amazon and other big companies. I don't follow this sort of puerile nonage Bravo Sierra that they put on. And remember, I think he did have what was it, last year? He wanted to do something good for poor people, so he flew his money, his wealth, his teams over the heads of poor and suffering and sick white people. He flew it all the way over their heads to Africa to go dig wells for them. I think this is him. Maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Or was it to Central or South America? And there have been some questions about MrBeast and his crew, and are they actually sexually maybe not in the majority when it comes to their interests or proclivities? And this question's been around for a long time, and we see indeed that in anti-whiteism, and this is again where you can ascertain and therefore predict what's going to happen and retrodict what has happened very clearly by understanding anti-whiteism. You can see that this is the exact crew that would be pushed not only to a colossal subscriber base, but even to children. And there are very questionable things. Now, YouTube has hammered me and has I've gone over the years with is this for children? We're deleting if it is for children. And I'm all the time, I'm like, it's never for children. I've got it. I've said it. They made the change on YouTube where you could just lock it in. It's not for children. And that's what I did. It's not for children on YouTube. But this crew, they push to children on YouTube, Meta in general, and at least according to all of the articles, and over the years when I've come across anything written about these folks, and you have these people that have questionable sexual interests and concerning for some to encourage the viewership of children. And he has these, MrBeast has these events where children are involved, these big events. So Pan says, tagged me, what is this? One of the crew left his family, small children included, to pretend to be a woman. MrBeast defended him. Is that the one we're talking about today? He had children, he had a family, and yet he left? Wow. So this is the kind of thing that is pushed, is promulgated by anti-whites. It doesn't need to be a Jewish anti-white, but it could be. It could be any anti-white. It is the gravity in our society. It is how you see things naturally end up in an anti-white course and anti-white conclusions. You wonder why. The reason why is that the tapestry is the morality, and the morality is the anti-white, immoral, moral imperative that has been foisted on the population by way of psychological warfare, has displaced all other systems of morality or has superseded them and displaced them and ethical structures as well. And so it becomes the gravity in a society. It becomes the natural course. For example, you're wondering, how does this happen, right? How does it happen that you always end up with, like, there's a country music singer, for example. I'm not talking about anybody specific, but he gets famous and he's succeeding. Everybody knows who he is. And then, oops, you find out that, I don't know, he's got a slew of non-white female partners and male sexual partners. And you're like, what? Like, why is this every time? Because when you create a social morality, you create a gravity. And it's the same way that the physical gravity operates in our world. Water will find its way downhill as a consequence. It may take an extraordinarily circuitous route to get downhill, but it always gets downhill in the end, doesn't it? It doesn't ever go back uphill. Society is the human beings that compose it. And the human beings that compose society are operated 98% of the time by way of their subconscious minds. So we can say what then is in the subconscious mind of the people that compose society is the social order. It is the gravity by which all things find their course, like a creek or a river finding its way downhill. It seems like it's natural. It's not natural, at least in the case of the human beings. YouTube superstar, MrBeast transgender sidekick, Chris Tyson, accused of grooming children. Chris Tyson, a transgender, Ava Tyson, transgender sidekick of YouTube superstar MrBeast, who is especially popular amongst children and teenagers, is at the center of controversy following allegations of an inappropriate relationship with a minor and grooming. Why do we even care about this? Because this is the acme. This is the entertainment node of power for millions of children and young adults, and the spin-offs are in the gravitational pull of this and similar creations. And so what do they endeavor to do for the same popularity, for the to do and be for the same popularity, for the same enrichment, for the same, you follow me? The Daily Mail reports that the streaming community has been rocked by allegations surrounding Chris Tyson, biological male, who claims to be a female and now uses the name Ava Tyson. Tyson is a former co-host. This person just stepped aside because of all of the information that came out. Massively popular YouTube channel, MrBeast. Tyson is alleged to have formed a relationship with a minor who was 13 when the relationship began. According to reports, Tyson and the minor, known as Lava, communicated for years. The controversy has led to the resurfacing of several controversial posts made by Tyson in the past. So, without having to dig through it, I'll sum up. This person, Ava, is and has been a huge fan of an artist who, so-called artist, it's not art. I'm with like Aristotle, that art has to enrich you to be art. It can be sad, it can be awful, but it has to enrich you in some way. Drawing minors performing sex acts and performing sex acts on themselves and with others is not art. And this Tyson, based on the tweets that were discovered on Tyson's timeline, was a enormous fan. Not only, reposting and requesting specific artistic renderings of, in at least one case, was a child character from a cartoon, and very sick stuff, based on my morality, but very sick stuff. The team at MrBeast, is said to be well aware of all of this. In fact, there was a stream in Ava's home where a picture on the wall had to be covered up because the picture on the wall was child pornography, said to be. It was covered up in the background, and but it was tweeted by Ava, and they have this image, and it can be seen and found. So all an investigation for you all to, look into if you want to, to find out whether I'm wrong or whether Breitbart is wrong, the article that I'm reading from. I don't know the person. I wasn't there. But there are people coming forward saying that this Tyson person is the tip of the iceberg. In fact, I watched a video of a guy who worked for MrBeast for a while and then left. Excuse me, and ostensibly on good terms. It wasn't like a bad hot fire and wants revenge now. Later, this person left on good terms at some point and is saying that MrBeast, the whole team, knows about Ava, and in fact, that Ava is only the tip of the iceberg for this type of thinking. And we're not going to follow. I'm not going to follow it. I mean, maybe. It is, though, for us, for our community, a major story to understand that's taking place, and that we got to this, the lauding, the celebration, the adulation, the enrichment, the popularity, the aggrandizement of people like this by way of the white erasure of our mores, norms, customs, standards, etc. Here's the thing. If you get to children and you indulge the basest comedy and entertainment, the human experience will deteriorate to the level of the animal. You really have to appreciate that it takes cultivation to reach the pinnacle that Western civilization reached. Anybody can, you start early enough, can become a fan of scatological humor, the grossest and basest, the most offensive and shocking, the most visceral experiences, because it's very easy to indulge and to entertain. It's very easy to sell people on the basest of instincts. If people didn't have food and water, you could reduce them literally to that of an animal, a human being to that of an animal. Nothing more, no more cogitation than a sheep, a cow. If that's what they had to do to get food and water, you could reduce them to that. So when you go to the young, it's and the argument is always, by the way, that if you have an adult and they've reached some level to operate in Western civilization, you had to be cultivated to a certain level, even like the working poor, and as ugly as those environments could get. What was that word? There's a word for foul language that came from I think it was a harbor, fishing harbor in the United Kingdom. And it was, the history of it was that, of course, the place stank because of the fish, but the people were also extraordinarily foul-mouthed. Maybe it'll come back to me. But even at that level, you have to have people reach this certain level of cultivation, and then they make the argument, well, if they want to, as cultivated to whatever degree adults, indulge something base, well, then they're adults and they can make the decision because they've already attained whatever level of cultivation. If you get at people when they're children, they don't reach whatever level of cultivation to then take a step down to indulge something visceral and animalistic. They remain visceral and animalistic. And that's what anti-whiteism gives you, because it's an inversion of our norms and mores as it white erases everything that we are. So this is not a one-off. This is now the norm. You find this even in Disney World, where we just had OMG Media reveal, of course, they revealed about not hiring white people, which has been going on for generations. And they even have it written down now, going on now for at least a generation. But they also revealed that Disney World finances these transgender events that brings children together with adults, and their propensities are questioned by some. So Disney and the promotion ruining, they say, I don't watch any of Disney's stuff, so but many articles are saying that they have destroyed a number of their big dollar storylines by incorporating various forms of anti-whiteism, including sexualizing the young, whether that's with each other or with adults, attempting to normalize that. Why? Because it is not normalized. It is the opposite by way of our standards and mores. So they're getting to these people, they're getting to our children with this revolting sexualization, and people who are indulging base humor, like ridiculous, dumb humor. And the people themselves, though, you find out, oh, well, they like to fantasize about having sex with children. That doesn't like pass the awareness of the children watching. They think that somebody who, if they're presented with somebody who is like this guy who stepped down, he said, by the way, or she said, whatever it, Ava, the ears against the door. I don't know whether he or she is now going by a he or she, or he or a she. We'll just say Ava. Ava has said that Ava is stepping down to evaluate Ava's life and to speak with Ava's doctor. So Ava might think that Ava has a problem. So when you have people like this that are the entertainment of things like, oh, the person just puked all over someone, it's hilarious. Oh, the person's going to take a dump in the car while they're going, oh, it's hilarious. Now, remember again, if you're an adult and you have had your cultivation and you want to look down and have a snarky laugh about something lowbrow, that is infinitely different than exposing children who have not had cultivation to this as their norm. A very different world is created by white erasing and inverting our norms. That's why this story was worthy of talking about.